Spider-Man Miles Morales. I love this game so much. This will be as unbiased as I can make this video. I'll probably fail because I fucking love this game. It's incredible. Insomniac produced another grand slam with this game. The graphics, the web slinging, the soundtrack, and the story. All these factors come together for an amazing experience. I played this game on PS4, so I did not get the full experience. It's no secret that I love Spider-Man, however. I never read any of the comics because I was not into that as a child. I was worried Miles Morales would not be what I expected. Oh boy, you better believe I was wrong. With 19 total costumes in the game, all of them looked fantastic. I loved using all of them to complete the story. When Spider-Man PS4 came out, it had 28 suits and later doubled that number. It's very disappointing. However, the suits they did give us were cool. I would have liked more suits, even if they were not from the comics. If they kept to the color scheme, they could have created whatever they wanted. The web slinging in this game reflects being new to Spider-Man. At this point, Miles had only been Spider-Man for 1 year. He would not have been an expert at web swinging, and they represent this very well. His animations are more wild and less fluid as Peter. Tricks are easier to perform, and it is a single button instead of two. In Spider-Man PS, it is triangle or circle as you fall or in between web swings. These tricks are very limited. Miles being around 16 years old, making his tricks wilder and more frequent makes sense. Being only 2 years older than Miles, if I could web swing, I would definitely perform this many tricks. This increases my immersion in the character. He acts like a teenager even while doing impossible activities. They kept similar mechanics from the first game they made. You swing with R2 and jump off the end of the swing with X to gain speed. Identically to the original game, the swinging feels good. This boosts replayability. I've been looking into what makes a game more replayable. The seeming answer is that instant, satisfying gameplay. How long it takes for a player to find gameplay that they love should determine how often returning players will boot up the game again and again. Let's look at two games with ultimate replayability: Minecraft and Call of Duty. These games allow for instant fun gameplay. There isn't a storyline you need to follow to reach the points you want to play. Well, how do games do this with storyline? The answer is free roam. Spider-Man Miles Morales keeps the replayability with crimes and fun traversal. They added new animations during dives. If you initiate a dive with L3 and use the trick button, hold square, you can move the left analog stick in any direction to perform as many dive tricks as you can before needing to swing out near the ground. This is super exciting and really adds to the traversal experience. Insomniac gave us so many options to look cool while doing anything, which is exactly what we asked for in a Spider-Man game. Maybe this video is a bit more biased than I intended, but I fucking love this game, like I said. The best part of these Spider-Man games, similar to the Arkham games, is the combat is fluid and cool. There are several new additions to the combat. Finishers are now not tied into focus, so you do not have to choose between an instant finisher and healing yourself. The focus is replaced by Venom Power. Venom Power has several abilities. You can stun brutes and underground swordsmen. The underground swordsmen suck. I hate the underground. They are difficult, but they also break the flow. You can't stay in the air for long. If an underground swordman is around, they will pull you back down to the ground. During the animation they use to pull you back to the ground, other enemies can still hit you and shoot you. A lot of times you can get absolutely cucked by the underground. You have to use Venom to get rid of the swordsman, but also need it to heal. This isn't a complaint, it's a compliment. These enemies are still difficult in the friendly setting. On the ultimate difficulty, it's nearly impossible. You don't have to choose between looking cool and having functional combat. Insomniac combined the two, which is excellent. There are a few types of enemies as the game progresses, and each have difficulty levels that add clear progression to the game. You start out with small-time criminals and end with supervillains thugs. There's a lot of fighting in this game as expected. It's a superhero game, but I never got tired of it as I played it. Some people might, and it's not for everyone, and I could see how people might get tired of it. But there are so many different ways to do an encounter. They added camouflage, which is one of his powers from the comics, that allow you to go invisible for a limited amount of time. And this allows you to escape from overwhelming combat. You can go from open combat to ceiling takedowns and wall takedowns in the same encounter. If you are discovered, you can go invisible and try again. For me, this essentially makes me never get bored. The stealth in this game is polished and more refined. There are more options to take down enemies, and stealth is possible in most of your encounters except for boss battles and forced open combat. This is what impressed me the most about this game, is that you can do everything that Spider-Man should be able to do. My level of immersion during all of this game is incredible. Insomniac did a fantastic job with the combat. Miles and Ganke develop an app for people to request Spider-Man. This allows the player to be more immersed because they can check the app with the slider to look at the crimes going on. This is a great alternative to the police scanner, although it doesn't sound so official. There's nothing like swinging around the city as Spider-Man and hearing the police scanner talk about crimes in the area. Something about it really immerses me. The app, however, demonstrates Miles and Genki's technical skill. They are adding more to the lore by showing off how smart they are, which is in line with the comics, but you also lose the official feeling of stolen police scanner information. Peter, you really should be in prison. There are plenty of side activities for you to do, and a 100% completion feels just as good as the previous game. They did add things that you can unlock in New Game Plus, but because I love the storyline and the game so much, I had no problem playing it again to get the last suit and last 3 upgrades. Miles is weaker in health and gadgets, but stronger in his abilities. Bioelectricity and camouflage are a few examples. There are upgrades to increase gadget capacity, especially for web shooters. In the previous game, you would use webs to web up brutes and to get your hits in. Now they want you to use your venom power, which works, but old habits die hard. I now have the ability to use both, and it opens it up a lot more. There are still enemy bases around the city, only being 2 varieties, the Underground and the Roxxon New Form Reactor. The Underground you use to help Danica with her podcasts, and the Roxxon bases you use to shut down Roxxon's illegal business practices and attempts to poison Harlem. A challenging and rewarding experience. You get activity tokens for completing these around the city. Instead of backpacks, you have underground tech, define, and time capsules. They give you all the locations, all you have to do is find them, and in combination with the web swinging, this is really fun to accomplish. All the tokens allow you upgrades for new suits and gadgets. You need all of them to have an easier time on higher difficulties. There are minimal boss fights in this game, unlike the previous game. However, they are emotional. The first boss fight is with Rhino. You watch Rhino rampage through the city as you deal with smaller enemies. Peter struggles with Rhino, but you cannot let the escaped prisoners get away in the city. You switch with Peter as you ride on Rhino's back, running through New York City, worried about Peter and the civilians, and getting calls from your mom as you chase Rhino. You get a realization how terrifying this must be for Miles. He hasn't dealt with a supervillain before. You can hear it in his voice as he asks Peter what they should do. You discover venom power from protecting Peter, even though he should have already discovered it, because he can make electricity come out of his body whenever he wants. Power of friendship happens in anime all the time. Peter tells you he's leaving town and you're in charge. You fight Rhino one more time, and there are 2 other boss fights that I will leave you to discover for yourself. They are emotionally moving. They executed this very well. If the developers give us an emotional tie to the villains, it becomes harder for us to want to fight them. They did this to a great degree in the previous game by making us fight Dr. Octavius for the Devil's Breath cure. Made the stakes even higher because we cared for him before he became a villain and started the Sinister Six. The soundtrack for this game is fantastic. Similar to the first game, as you swing through the city, the music applauds your every movement. The previous game had a fantastic fanfare, and this game has a trap-style beat, possibly referring to the fact that Miles likes making beats and that he could be listening to it as he's swinging. This is called diegetic music. In the beginning of the game, when Miles puts on his headphones, he is listening to similar style music. This would be a really nice touch if that was the case. It would make perfect sense. It would be like listening to your playlist on a commute, except he defies the laws of physics on his way to work. The soundtrack perfectly complements everything in the game, from spider work to hanging out with Finn. It all comes together perfectly. The soundtrack adds a nice touch to an already great game. John Paisano did the soundtrack for this game, along with the soundtracks for Maze Runner. I want to briefly touch on the suits in this game again. There are 18 suits that can be unlocked in your first playthrough, but 1 more suit that can be unlocked in New Game Plus. I love how much detail Insomniac puts into their suits, and they make them worthwhile for every player to get, even though there are fewer suits like I said before. This is not a full-length game, it's a longer standalone DLC to show us what the future holds for Peter and Miles. That's why they didn't put as many suits in. Here's my problem. I paid $50 for this game. This was essentially a full release with less in it. Why would Insomniac make us pay so much for this much less? I do not know, but they'd already given us a shorter storyline and they hit the nail on the head with everything else. I guess the suits left a little more to be desired. Perhaps they spoiled me with the first game. However, the first game released with only 28 suits, like I said. Maybe there's more suits on the way. I'm hopeful that we can get more suits. My favorite suit is the end suit. I love how it looks like he took things he had in his closet to make his suit. It looks like a polished homemade suit. It's charming. I love how this suit looks. The suits for me are mostly cosmetic, as I rely on the combat more instead of suit power, but the suit powers are equally useful. My least favorite suit is a Great Responsibility suit. No. What did you make? Why does it have joint protectors? Pete, you done goofed. That looks bad. Maybe it's just me, but it looks awful. The majority of the suits are unlockable with upgrades and activity tokens. However, my favorite suits are the suits you earn after completing quests, such as the Programmable Matter suit. The player is given a prompt to craft this suit after finishing all the underground bases and helping Danica finish her podcast special. The suit is modeled after the weapons that the Tinkerer made for the underground. Miles can control how the suit sits on him, which is very cool. The next suit unlocked by quest is the Bodega Cat suit. This suit is fucking adorable. You have a cat in a backpack that helps with combos. How can it get any better than that? The Uptown Pride suit is the same as the classic suit, but gold instead of red. You unlock this suit by completing the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app missions. Next is the Miles Morales 2020 suit. You get this from beating the combat simulations and beating the Vulture simulation. It's a pretty cool suit, I like it. These suits are dope. I love playing the game with all the suits and I change them frequently, but like I said, I wish they had more suits in the game. This game provided us with a fantastic way to demonstrate how great Miles actually is. For someone like me who hasn't seen a Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 3 and has only read one issue of the Spider-Man comics, this game allows me to fall in love with Miles as a character. His character is deeply relatable as a teen who's doing the best he can to make his father and mother proud and to do what is right. This game is amazing, but it does have its flaws. There are times I've gotten stuck inside a building and could not get out. I had to reload the save and lose some progress. But this is not a game-breaking issue. Let's go over the ratings for this game. Traversal is a 10 out of 10. Fluid swinging and lots of tricks to make you have the most fun. Combat is an 8 out of 10. Not nearly as fluid as the web swinging, but it is still very smooth and a lot of fun to do. Bosses are a 10 out of 10. Difficult and impactful and a decent challenge that make you rely on skills and gadgets you have learned or obtained. Storyline is a 9 out of 10. Not every game is going to be perfect and there are issues with the storyline. Equal to that of the praises. I like the storyline a lot, so this is a biased rating. The game was a lot of fun to play and had so many great messages to share along with it. The idea that is presented here is that anyone can wear the mask. Everyone has what it takes to help someone in need. And I love that about Miles. He grows into the role of Spider-Man. He starts out being unsure of himself, but he grows to realize that he is Harlem's only Spider-Man, and he does not have to hide in Peter's shadow anymore. This is also represented by the guy at the beginning of the game, adding Miles into the mural as well. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys like this video, please leave a like. Let me know what game you'd like to see in the comments. And please, give this game a try if you can. It's a really good game. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.